So, good day everyone. My name is Junel P. Silguero, RMT. I am your instructor in Human Anatomy and Physiology with Pathophysiology. So, today we will be discussing about the human body and orientation. So, this will be your chapter 1, okay, on the said subject. So, the human body and orientation. So, first is we have to define terms, common terms sa subject na ito. So, the first term that I will be presenting to you is the word anatomy. So, it is said that anatomy is a study of the structure and shape of the body and its parts. So, for example, the way you see a particular person, you could describe or you could study those parts na meron siya sa katawan niya, yung shape. So, you are actually dealing with that particular term anatomy. Next is the term physiology. Study of how the body and its parts work or function. So, kung kanina yung anatomy, you will just describing those parts. Right now, if you say physiology, you are actually telling the function of each part. Okay? So, anatomy, levels of study, levels of study, ano yung classes or ways on the way you see or describe a particular person based on its parts or body parts. So first is we have the so-called gross anatomy. If we say gross anatomy, large structures, easily observable. So you are actually seeing or appreciating those particular parts without using any instruments. Like nakikita mo lang siya. First glance mo, nakita mo yung part ng katawan niya. So that's gross. Kasi nga, the way you see immediately without using any instrument. So that's gross anatomy. Kasi nga, large in size, at the same time, easily observable. So this is just an illustration of a human being, specifically its internal organs. So we do have this mouth or oral cavity. Oral cavity is the other term if you are pertaining to your mouth. Next is inside our mouth, we do have this tongue. So behind that particular tongue, we do have these glands. So parotid gland, sublingual gland, submandibular gland. So those are types of salivary glands. If we say salivary glands, those particular glands secrete out saliva or yung laway natin. Next is we have the pharynx. So pababa na tayo. Next is we have this esophagus, yung mahaba na tubo, kung nakikita ninyo. Next is we do have this liver. Okay, liver. Next, below that liver, we do have that green portion, which is the gallbladder. After that, we have the stomach, pancreas, spleen, okay, and we have 3 types of small intestines here. We do have that duodenum, jejunum, ileum, and now the different types of the positions or the types of intestines. We have the transverse colon, descending colon, okay, ascending colon. Kasi descending and ascending, the difference between the two is actually the placement. Pag sinabi natin descending colon, pababa, okay, so nakikita natin pababa, while ang ascending colon is pataas. Anong meaning ng pababa at saka pataas, sir? Pababa yung pagdaloy ng food particles na take in ng tao, at saka if si ascending colon, yung colon na yon is ina-allow yung passageway ng food which is pataas. Next is cecum, sigmoid colon, rectum, appendix, anal canal, anus. So those are types of large intestine. So don't worry, don't really dwell so much with this because we have our separate discussion later on as we go through with this subject, which I may say more detailed compared to this. So wag masyadong kabahan, just appreciate it. So the other type of anatomy, yung sabi ko kanina, gross anatomy, yung nakikita natin, yung nahawakan natin, yung na-appreciate natin via our naked eye. While ang microscopic anatomy naman, structures cannot be seen with the naked eye. Structures can only be viewed with a microscope. So yung gross anatomy, as what I have said a while ago, you will not use any instruments at all. You will not use any apparatus at all for you to appreciate that. Unlike microscopic anatomy, as the word goes, microscopic. So those are parts which are minute in size, thus you cannot see directly. So you have to use what apparatus? The microscope. Okay? So, this is actually an example of that microscopic anatomy. Yung sinabi ko kanina, yung after sa gross anatomy, yung different parts ng katawan ng tao, those are examples of gross anatomy because if you will open the body of that particular person, you will appreciate directly those particular parts. Unlike microscopic anatomy, as what I have said, you have to use first microscope for you to appreciate that. So, example of that is this particular illustration that I am presenting to you right now. Pyloric sphincter, yung sa left side, pyloric sphincter is actually a part of our stomach. If we say sphincter, parang boundary yan siya or parang tubo yan siya, okay, na nakakabit mismo nandun sa stomach natin. So, kung nakikita ninyo, kumuha lang siya ng portion, okay, dun sa pyloric sa stomach, at saka yung pinalaki dyan. I'll repeat, yung maliit na portion niya sa taas, okay, yun yung stomach natin, which is, di ba, may nakalabel na pyloric sphincter. So, kumuha lang ng portion doon, kaya pinalaki siya. Bakit siya pinalaki, sir? Kasi nga, hindi mo siya ma-appreciate via your naked eye as you grab that particular organ. So, you have to use microscope for you to appreciate this illustration, itong pinalaki na siya. So, if you will use microscope, now you will appreciate the gastric pits. If we say gastric pits, yun yung parang mini holes na nasa stomach natin. We do have this surface epithelium. If we say surface, nasa taas lang yan siya or nakabalot lang yan siya. If we say epithelium, it is actually one of the examples of tissues in our body. So please don't feel so bad about yourself that like you don't know about it, because as what I have said, we have our separate discussion about tissues soon. Next is we have the mucus, next cells. If we say mucus, there's a secretion from that particular cell. What are those secretions? Those secretions are in liquid in form, okay, but highly concentrated liquid. So those are necessary for the digestion of our food. Next is parietal cells, a type of cell which we will be discussed soon. Gastric glands that secretes out, for example, acid such as hydrochloric acid. That's why one of the factors for us to digest properly our food is via the hydrochloric acid, which is present actually inside our stomach. So what are those particular objects responsible for that particular fluid to be secreted out? So those are gastric glands. And we do have its chief cells, okay, a type of cell also present on that particular organ. So gastric teeth, gastric gland. So as what I have said, this is an example of a microscopic anatomy because you will not appreciate this, via first glance. Okay, you have to do microscopy for you to appreciate this. Yeah, another example of in microscopic anatomy, as what I have said, you cannot directly appreciate this via your naked eye. So now, this particular illustration will show kung saan talaga tayo galing. Ano yung pinakamaliit, okay, na bagay nagko-compose sa isang tao up until nangyari ito, or up until nagawa itong katawan na ito. So first is we do have the so-called atoms. Okay, atoms are chemical level atoms combined to form molecules. So yung atoms na yon, they combine. So a group of atoms, yun yung molecules natin. So molecules will make